So, just about all of us growers have experienced some form of pest pressure, whether that's caterpillars eating your cabbages or carrot root fly tunneling into your carrots. And being an organic grower, there isn't necessarily a one solution that's going to fix all of your problems. As a result, in today's video, I want to talk about companion planting, which is one of the tools in the grower's sort of arsenal to deal with pests. So if you're a non-organic grower and you're happy to use pesticides, for every pest there's typically going to be at least one chemical which is going to be able to sort of combat that pest. Now, organic growers try to avoid these, and as stated, one of the tools you can use is companion planting. So very quickly, companion planting is whereby you plant a plant in a close proximity to the vegetable or whatever you're trying to grow, and it gives some advantages in that it either maybe deters pests or it attracts predatory bugs to deal with pests, and there's some form of advantage for having those plants in close proximity. So today's video, I've got three companion plants that you can start off in January, and they each have a different benefit that they provide for vegetables or flowers or whatever you're trying to grow. So the first one I want to talk about is poached egg plants, and there is a cool Latin name for them as well, but I can't quite remember how to say it. And poached egg plants are brilliant. They've got a low growing habit. They sort of spread out from wherever you plant them. They've got these beautiful white flowers with like a yellow center. And the big benefit of poached egg plants as a companion plant is that they are a sort of pollinator attractor. And one of the main things they're really good for attracting is hoverflies. Now, hoverflies themselves don't have a particularly predatory appetite. They don't eat thousands of aphids or anything, but their larvae do, and it's the hoverfly larvae that you want in your garden. So by growing these plants, having them around, you're more likely to get more hoverflies, and therefore you'll get more hoverfly larvae. And there's other beneficial insects as well. Now, the reason I'm talking about them in this video here in January is they are super hardy. The seeds are quite large seeds, really easy to sow. I did it in January last year and I've had brilliant results, and they've even self-seeded here in my vegetable bed. So I'll do a bit of a close-up, and although they're a self-seeder, which people can think are a bit of a nuisance, because the leaves are so recognizable, if they start germinating and popping up in places, you're not going to mistake them for anything else. You're going to know what they are, and therefore it's really easy when they're small just to pick them up and remove them. But what I'm going to do here, and especially when the ground's thawed and not so frozen as it is today, is I'll dig these up and move them into different places around the garden. Now, I grew them in two different places. I had some here in this vegetable bed, and I also had some over by my plum tree, and they're very different soil types. One's heavy clay, this is very sort of light, fluffy compost, and as a result, these ones did a lot better, but they also did really well in the heavy clay, and there's even one that's self-seeded over there all by itself. So what I would say is a brilliant companion plant for protecting plants that get damaged by things like aphids, but not necessarily just that. Even things like things that get attacked by caterpillars, you're attracting not just the hoverflies, but other predatory bugs which will eat the pests in the area. So a really great one to think about starting off now in January. So next on the list as a companion plant is mint, and mint is brilliant because it deters pests. So rather than attracting in pollinators like the poached egg plant, this is really good for deterring pests, and it's really just by the scent of it. Some pests don't look like it, and one of the main reasons I'm hoping mint is going to be a brilliant companion plant for me is because I have big problems with leaf miner. So leaf miner basically tunnels in the sort of thin membrane of the leaf, and it doesn't necessarily kill the plant or anything, but it obviously reduces photosynthesizing, and therefore it reduces the harvest. So mint, I'm told, is really good for deterring that. So I'm going to basically grow a large pot of this in my vegetable bed, and hopefully everything will be okay. But there is one problem with mint that lots of gardeners sort of fear growing it for. Now, the main problem with mint is it is inadvisable to plant it in the ground. So you always grow it in a pot. And the reason for that is this mint here that I propagated from a cutting this summer is here. However, what it's done is it sends out these runner-like shoots almost along the surface of the soil, and then you get mint popping up. Now, obviously, these are popping up along the edge of the pot because they've got nowhere else to go. But if you had planted this in the ground, this would spread out and run around everywhere. So it's one you've got to be a bit careful of, but growing it in a self-contained pot is a brilliant way to get the benefits without having mint take over your garden. Now, while I've got this out of its pot, I am going to put it into a slightly bigger pot. And while I'm doing this, I just want to talk to you guys a bit about why I'm talking about mint in January. Well, the reason, as you can see, is mint is pretty hardy. In the winter, it kind of dies back, but it doesn't completely die or anything. And basically now is probably a good time to maybe grab yourself a mint, start propagating it indoors using, I don't know, sort of a sunny windowsill or something. And in that way, come, I don't know, when you want mint to be in full swing, sort of the springtime when when leaf miner and things are starting to cause problems, you will hopefully have some mint. Now, with this stuff, I'm not really worrying about protecting it too much. Mint is such a strong, hardy plant; it will just push on through just about any kind of punishment. You can pick it up, throw it on concrete, and it will probably grow there. It really is not a particularly difficult plant to keep alive. But yeah, so I'm just going to sort of press in a bit more compost, get this one ready. But what I would advise is, obviously, if you know where a mint plant is, you can take a cutting from it. You can grow mint from seed, but I probably wouldn't bother. I hear the germination's a little bit difficult, a bit tricky. But if you haven't got a mint plant anywhere else to take a cutting from, what you can do is you can go to your local supermarket and pick up some fresh mint and then basically just drop that into a glass of water. And after a couple of weeks, it'll put on some roots. And there you have it, your very own thing. You can then put it into some a pot with some compost and grow it on a bit like this, and it will just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think really, the bigger the pot you give, the bigger the mint plant you'll have. So there you go. Now, the third and final plant I'm giving a go in January as a companion plant is borage. Now, borage does attract pollinators, so it's a lot like the poached egg plant. You'll get lots of bees and things, which is brilliant, really good pollination, so that's good. But the reason I'm growing as a companion plant is as a nutrient accumulator. What I mean by that is borage has quite deep roots, and the idea is that its roots go deeper than other plants. Therefore, it taps a different level of nutrients. It gets down into what they call the subsoil. From the subsoil, it draws up the nutrients into its leaves and flowers, and then when it dies or you compost it, you're basically now composting those nutrients that have been mined from deeper in the soil than plants typically root. So really good one. And the big benefit of it is you get this big, beautiful plant. You get these edible flowers, which apparently taste like cucumber. But because it's a hardy annual, with a bit of warmth from inside the house, I'm going to have a go at sowing it today in January. So I've got my pots here prepared with just some sort of sieved compost, and I've made a small hole about 1 centimetre deep. These are the sort of seedlings. Let's make sure they're in camera. They're reasonably large. They're quite easy to handle. And I'm basically just going to put 2 into each hole just for redundancy. And then if they both germinate, I will just remove the weaker one, if there is a weaker one. Now, with borage, basically what I'm hoping to do is I'll plant these out in March. Now, I've never done this in January before, and obviously the seed packets don't tell you to do this, but they talk about sowing outside in March, which is still really cold. So I got a feeling if I can germinate these inside during January, I can get a bit of a head start, and hopefully I can get a really good sort of long flowering period with this borage. And once the borage is done, the main thing is you've basically brought the nutrients up to the topsoil, which is then going to benefit the plants that you're sort of growing around it. So yeah, there we go. All I've got to do is cover these over, give them a water, and we're good to crack on. So there you go, 3 different companion plants with 3 different advantages, and they're all things that you can start focusing on now in January, and especially into February and March. You're going to want to start planning these things and start thinking about companion plants around the garden. Now, companion planting as a rule is just one tool in the organic grower's sort of arsenal. It's not necessarily going to solve all your problems, but not only will it start to mitigate some of the problems you're having, it's also going to look good. You're going to have lots of nice flowers in the garden, hopefully. And that too is, I think, really important for a lot of us growers who are looking for not just a productive space, but a good looking space as well. So I really hope you like this video, and if you do, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon for more videos.